Gals, you know guys have it too.
Are you going to play a video?
I'm trying to keep track of time here for you guys, so we won't keep you too long. The title tonight is titled, Do I Appreciate It? Do I Appreciate It? I think I'm going to set my hat off this side. That's all I'm taking off, so you're safe.
Yikes.
You don't have to face the other way. Do I appreciate it? Do I appreciate it? Years ago, I was in Detroit Lakes and I was doing counseling, and I was driving around by Rossman Elementary School, and by one of the posts out by the street, there was a bike chained to it, and the bike was for sale. It said for sale, $50 in the number, and so I looked at it. It was one of those, have you seen those chopper-style bikes they build? You know, we used to make them. We used to cut forks off and stick on another fork, and you would kind of get a chopper look. Well, they built these bikes that look like a chopper, and they're fairly expensive, I guess. So this was $50. Now, I don't need a bike. You can tell I don't ride a bike, but I bought the bike because I thought it was so reasonable, and I don't know, I just felt led to buy this bike. And so a couple months later, we're living by Perm at that time, and I was driving down one of the streets of Perm, and there was a lemonade stand. And so I stopped at the lemonade stand. I always try to help out the kids, and I said, what are you doing? They said, well, she said, I'm trying to raise money for my brother so he can buy a bike. Oh. I said, you're going to be here for a while? She said, yeah, I'm going to try to get him a bike. And I said, I'll be back. So I went home in the garage, and I got it, and I polished it up, put it in the back of the pickup, drove it over there, drove myself over there. And I said, is this a good enough bike? And that kid's eyes were as big as yours when I'm, sometimes preaching hard. Oh. And he's like, yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Really? I can have that and whatnot? And I said, you know what? God's given me this bike, because I don't know why I bought the bike. I just sitting in the garage so you can have this bike. So I think they shut the lemonade stand down and they went riding bike. I don't know. As I went by a few times later, I noticed that the bike would be laying in the yard just tipped over on its side. Now, how many of you, your parents said, take care of your stuff? Nobody. Hey, I love that. We're in the right crowd. Oh, some of you did, yeah. So I noticed it was just laying in the yard, and then it was pouring rain one day, and it was laying out in the yard. And I got to admit, for a while, I thought, dang, you don't really appreciate that. I mean, I gave him this bike, and I thought it was pretty cool. I was taking care of it, and there it lays. And so I think, the good Lord was maybe teaching me something about when you give with strings attached, or you give something with your expectations of how it should be handled after that. You ever do that? I tell you, that's a losing battle for sure, because if you value it more than they do, there's no way they're going to take care of it. And so I noticed it was, so I quit going down that road because I was a little bit frustrated, but I pray he had a fun time with that. But this idea is did he appreciate it or not? And I'll never know. And we wonder that sometimes about our friendships and different things. You wonder if you're appreciated. Sandy sometimes probably wonders if I appreciate her as my wife. Right? And vice versa. Okay? Vice versa. Relationships that you're in, do you value me? Do you value this relationship? Because you can tell pretty quickly if somebody does, because they might, maybe they're dating a lot of people, and all of a sudden they say, we're exclusive. Kind of like Lois back in the other day, we'll talk about that before, but the whole point is that, yeah, I know. The whole point is that oftentimes we have to decide, does somebody appreciate something or not? Oftentimes we don't really know, and we make judgment calls or whatnot, but I want to talk about this because I want to figure out a story in the Bible and wonder if he was appreciated. The definition of appreciate I looked up, and it said this. It said to value justly, to be grateful for, and to increase in value. Something that increases in value. That's the definition of appreciate. So yes, I appreciate this church I wrote down. Yes, I appreciate my wife. I appreciate meat and potatoes. Veggies, not so much, but I appreciate good health. I appreciate the doctors. I appreciate the country. I appreciate a lot of different things. And oftentimes you can see that. I pray that Sandy knows that I love her because I thank her, or, we hug each other every once in a while and peck on the cheek, whatever it might be. We kind of reassure each other that we love each other and that we appreciate each other. And I think all of us like that. We want to know if we're appreciated from time to time. It doesn't mean that we have to have it constantly, but it's nice to know that if you're invested in something, you appreciate it. Or it's nice to know if somebody gives you something or whatever it might be that, they're grateful for it and they appreciate it. So I appreciate it also. I got to admit that I apparently don't appreciate my doctor's orders very much. And a lot of us don't, because they tell us that we should eat healthy, right? That we should stay away from carbs, and that we shouldn't have so much sugar if you're a diabetic and different things like that. And so I lost 19 pounds. Yeah. I found about 8 back. That's the point I want to make. When they first tell you that you have diabetes, you say, you know what, I'm going to lick this thing, I'm going to get rid of this thing, and so tell me what I need to do, and they cut out everything I eat right off the board, pasta and stuff, it's all gone. It's a sad deal, you know, you can have 1 cup of rice. And so for a while we did very well. We took peanuts and nuts and we made little bags, a 1/4 ounce bag, you know, so that was my treat bag at night, you know. I got to have some nuts by the TV. And so I lost weight because I appreciated what they told me and I took it for heart. Then the holidays came. Well, before long, you know, we just threw stuff away just recently from the holidays yet. On this counter is all kinds of goodies and whatnot. Now, Cindy will say you don't have to eat them, and she's right. But I do. I find myself grazing. I find myself grabbing 1 or 2 things as I head out the door. Anyone like that? And so before long, you know, maybe Sandy made mashed potatoes and gravy and fried chicken. Well, you know, I got to eat a little bit of the mashed potatoes and the gravy. And before long, I'm eating bread. And before long, I see that I'm getting back into how I used to eat. And lo and behold, guess what's happening? The weight's coming back on. So I'm going to see the doctor tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Does anyone want to go in, like someone thin, go in with my name? You know, steal your identity, please? Because I guess he's going to say you've lost some weight, but I had so much more lost. But at some point, I have to say that I apparently didn't appreciate it enough to stick with it. You meet people that have suffered heart attacks, near died, right? And you find that they're giving up cigarettes, they're giving up the foods, they're giving up this, they're in cardiac rehab, they're walking every day, they're running, they're doing all kinds of things that's fantastic. And you say, man, you are a changed dude. And then a few months later, some of them you might see back smoking and eating the rolls and drinking Mountain Dew and all these different things. It's so interesting because when we get something, sometimes we appreciate it so much, but it has to hang in there. We have to have the endurance to keep it going and going, don't we? After a while, we begin to wane off. After a while, it's not quite as important. After a while, we just kind of take it for granted. And after a while, we can find ourselves in trouble. So we're going to go to Luke 15, starting in verse 11. It's the story of the prodigal son. I've preached on this. You've heard it a lot of times. Prodigal meaning wasteful, what do they say, lavish living, reckless living. It says the lost son, my Bible says. But it talks about this man, and it talks about his boy. I'm going to read through it quickly. It's not really the story I'm going to do because we're going to talk about something else, but I think I need to just read it real quick so you understand what we're talking about. It says, then he said, a certain man had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that fall to me. And so he divided them his livelihood. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living, wasteful living. But when he had spent all, there arose a severe famine in that land, and he began to be in want. Then he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into the fields to feed swine. And he would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the swine ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise, and I will go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and before you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. And he arose and came to his father, but when he was still a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet, and bring the fatted calf here and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to be married. I'm going to stop there. The story goes on, and if you read the story, and if you want to preach on the story, it goes on to say that the son that never left really struggles with the son that's coming back. So this story can be used, this analogy can be used for a couple different things. One, it could be that we could say that, Christ is there waiting for us with open arms, and whenever we come to our senses, we come to him and ask forgiveness, and he receives us like nothing ever happened. And he doesn't hold it against us. How awesome is that, right? Amen. The other side of this is you could say, well, it's a great example of someone that kind of falls away. we come to Christ and we receive all that He has, and before long we kind of drift off and we don't really appreciate it all, and we're out kind of living this rough life and whatnot, and we finally hit rock bottom, boom, and then all of a sudden we have an epiphany and say, you know what, I need to get back to Christ. And so you begin that long journey getting back to Christ, and Satan's pounding on you the whole way there, and prayerfully there are people that are coming alongside you, but you know that Jesus Christ is there with open arms. If you say, you know what, Lord, I asked forgiveness, I sinned, I fell away from you, but I'm here, He'll receive you. That's what's so awesome about the story. But here's the struggle that I have. It's not a bad struggle, but how many of you know Paul Harvey? The young people are like, who's Paul Harvey? Paul Harvey always said, and here's the rest of the story. And his whole show would be about the rest of the story. And I shared one time Paul Harvey, and I was talking about the gal that burned herself at McDonald's. And we all thought it ridiculous. You know, of course the coffee's hot. And so she won a big lawsuit, and they had to print on there that the coffee was hot. I'm guessing she would have complained if it was cold. But it was hot, and she burned herself. And so we say, man, what a bogus thing. But if you read more of the story, if you know the rest of the story, you realize that McDonald's had been warned several times about high degree coffee. It's too hot. It will burn your skin. And they wouldn't heed it. So finally the government said, you know what, we're going to clamp down and shut this thing down. And that's why she won the lawsuit. Because it was repeatedly happening over and over again. Now we know the rest of the story. Now we show that lady a little bit more grace, don't we? Oh, I realize now, yes. So the rest of the story is always interesting. Well, we don't have the rest of this story. And that's what I wonder about tonight, is what happened to this kid when he came back to Dad and to his brother, who wasn't very happy. And I'll tell you what, the fatted calf was not happy either. All right? It's like, who's that coming? Well, who cares? And then he's gone, right? So the fatted calf wasn't happy. The brother wasn't happy because he thought he's coming back and he's going to take all this stuff. Now Dad tells him, hey boy, don't worry about it. All this we have is yours. He already took his share and he lost it. But we still love him. We're going to receive him. We're going to provide for him. And so that's awesome. But we don't know the rest of the story. What did the son do after he made it home? Rick Warren, in his Power-Driven Life book, he described what the son might have learned. He said, you're free to choose what you surrender to, but you're not free from the consequences of that choice. Isn't that interesting? And that's probably the problem in the country today. A lot of people are saying, well, I want to choose this and I want to choose that, and this is my right and that's my right. And then when there's horrible consequences, who do I blame about this? Well, look in the mirror, my friend. Look in the mirror. That's what has to happen. And so this young man had choices, and he sure got some consequences, but we have such a loving God that He received him and said, you know what, let's brush you off. Let's not only that, let's get you a robe and a ring, and let's again kill that calf. No, the calf doesn't like that at all. And away they go and enjoy it. Someone once said, God makes potatoes and Satan makes potato chips. There's maybe some truth to that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with eating a potato if you eat it in the right portions or whatnot. There's nothing wrong with eating turkey. There is eating turkey bacon. That's not good, Katie. Who likes turkey bacon or turkey wieners? Come on. There's only a very small few. Yes. We will pray for you guys later also. That's just fine. Anyways, Katie eats right. She eats well. I would starve to death in her house, and that's okay. That's her choice. She gets to choose those things. I have chosen what I've eaten through my life, and I'm paying the consequence for that. Absolutely I am. So I accept that, and let's go out and eat and talk about it, okay? Listen. An old successful business leader was asked one day by his young protege for the secret to success. The old man said, I can give it to you in 2 words: right decisions. But how does one go about making right decisions? Asked the young man. Experience, came the reply. But how does one gain experience? Wrong decisions, replied the man. In other words, we can learn from our mistakes, can't we? We can realize that we made a mistake and turn around. When it says that he came to himself, it's like that moment. Have you ever had that moment where you're like, duh, why am I doing this? Why am I living this way? People have been inviting me to church over and over again. People have been telling me about this Jesus, but I'm going to go ahead and drag through the mines. I'm going to go ahead and walk this rough road, and I'm going to just complain about my life every day when I could have something so much better. How many of you walked that road a long time before you came to Christ? It's interesting. It's interesting. So we come to realize that if we make poor decisions, prayerfully, we can learn from them. God says all things work for good. So we can learn from those decisions, and someday you might be able to share them with somebody else that's walking that same old path you used to walk. Alcohol, drug counselors, the best ones are those that have walked that walk. If I come into somebody that's in drug rehab and they're just starting to get cleaned up and they say, well, tell me about your life, man. You know what I'm talking about? Well, on page 7, it talks about how I should respond to that question. You're out of there. He's not going to pay attention to you whatsoever. But if you say, you know what, I've been there, let me tell you my story, and you begin to share about the decisions you made, the consequences you had to receive of that, and how you came to be a better person for it, they grab onto it. So this young man has a chance to do wonderful things. But we go back to that cardiac patient again. That cardiac patient that is so thankful for a second chance. Some of you might be sitting here saying, I was there. I almost died. And so now, you know what? The skies are bluer, the grass is greener, everything's wonderful. I can't believe it. I had a second chance and I'm not going to waste it. Well, this son had a second chance. I wonder if he wasted it or not. That's the question I have tonight. And there is no answer. We don't hear anything more about him. All I can do is say we know there's 2 ways that he could have went, right? One is he could be repentant and he could be so appreciative that he says, you know what, Dad? Remember when he's out in the field? He said, hey, I don't mind if I'm even a hireling. He doesn't say that when he gets back to Dad. He says, I can't even be called your son. Now, 2 things might happen. One is he might come home and say, Dad, man, did I mess up. I really messed up. I took your inheritance and I blew it and I don't have anything coming, but if you give me a place to live, I tell you what, I'll be the best shepherd you have ever had. I am so appreciative, Dad. Thank you so much. Had I told you, Dad, I want to thank Dad, did I tell you that I appreciate you very much for letting me come back home? Or he can go the other road. It's Monday morning. He just came home Sunday. He's ate the fatted calf. He looks like me. He's laying in bed and Dad says, come on, time to get up and go do the sheep. I'm tired. I don't feel like it. I don't know if I'm going to do this. I'm going to go into town and see my friends. I was gone a long time, Dad. I haven't seen my friends. Dad's rolling his eyes going, oh my, he hasn't learned a thing. Anyone ever been there? You've helped somebody out or you've done something and you say, you know what, they've got this second chance. They've got to be so appreciative. I just know they're going to be as excited about it as I am. And then they stomp on your heart and destroy everything, all the ideas you had. I don't know what this young man did. But I know that we have that choice to make also when we come to Jesus Christ. Or when we come back to Jesus Christ. We have to make that choice. How appreciative are we going to be? Remember the definition of appreciate said that it even increases in value. So when you've been on with Christ and then you've kind of backslid and now you're back with Christ, you should appreciate even so much more what took place on that cross. And that's what I'm getting to tonight. Are we appreciative or are we taking it for granted? How many of us really sit and ponder that each and every day and say, you know what, I was on the road to hell. I cannot believe, Lord, that you accepted me. I was so full of sin and you received me. I just can't believe it. Thank you for giving me another clear day with you. I'm guessing a lot of us don't say that often. We start to take Christ for granted. It's just church. Yeah, I go to church. I like to sing. I like to hear a sermon or whatever it might be. They go downstairs and have goodies and stuff. It's a good feeling. I feel good when I get home. But it's supposed to be so much more than that. If we appreciate it, it will be more than that. Think about the things that you really appreciate at your house. Some of you guys might have a truck that you just love or a gun that you love or whatever, and you're constantly cleaning it. Your wife's like, you got to clean that every night. Oh, yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful. I got to keep it perfect, man, because you appreciate it so much. Or cell phones. I love the cell phone example. Oh, man, where's my cell phone? It's so precious. Is it plugged in? Make sure it's plugged in. Okay, it's plugged in, but is it charging? Does that little thing say charging? Yeah, it's charging. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I left the house. Wow, where's my cell phone? Come here, you little rascal. I almost left the house without you. Oh, I just got to check and see if anything happened. I heard a ding somewhere. Somebody had a ding. Is it me? Is it me? Wouldn't it be that if we treated Christ like that? Oh, Christ, come with me. Christ, come with me. I need you. Or go to the doctor's appointment, Lord. I need you. Have your blessings. I need your protection. I'm going to be driving today, Lord. I want you to come with me. Please come with me. Oh, charge me up, Lord. Charge me up through the Word. Wouldn't that be awesome? Some of you, I'm stepping on your toes. I'm punching in the gut. I'm punching myself too because I get so frustrated at times with myself because I want all that. I want to be in God all the time, but I find myself distracted or caught up in this or caught up in that. The Olympics are on, for Pete's sakes. They did the luge today. They did the luge today. A lot of things want to take us away from it. Now, guys, it's Valentine's coming up. Gals, it's Valentine's coming up. Some of you are single or don't have a relationship, and so maybe Valentine's isn't as supposedly lovey-lovey as it could be. But the point I want to make is that oftentimes our wives will let us know if they don't feel appreciated. They tell us that. Christ doesn't sit down and say, I really want your attention. He says, I'm here all the time. Draw near to me and I'll draw near to you. It's our move. It's our move. If we appreciate Christ enough, we will want to be in the Word. We will want to be in it. I want to take a moment and just talk about Raymond over there. I'm not going to share everything, Raymond. Don't calm down. Raymond, a few months ago, had a decision to make about some things, and guess what? He got born again. He's been going here he said, I've been listening to your sermons for 10 years, and now I finally get them. But it's so interesting. How many people are coming to these, coming to church here, listening to the sermons over and over again, every week, blah, 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 throw it out there, and you go, wow, that's cool, or whatever, but it never stuck. Not until he accepted Jesus Christ truly into his heart, that he appreciated the gift. Now that guy's on fire, man. Thursday morning, he was talking to a group of men, and they're all sitting back just smiling because this guy's on fire. And guess what they said? Remember when we used to be like that? What the heck does that say for an older Christian? Remember when we used to be like that? We're supposed to be like that. That doesn't go away. But we lose our appreciation for the gift. That moment that you get saved, that you just know that you're not going to hell and that Christ forgives you for everything that you did. Remember that moment? That doesn't change. It shouldn't change. But after a while, life comes into play and we get busy, and now we're leading Bible studies, and that takes a lot of time and whatever else. It's so many different things, and it begins to get minimized, and before long we're doing it. We're going through the motions, but we don't necessarily appreciate it. Don't go there. Don't go there. If you find yourself that you just kind of, when you hear about Raymond, you say, oh yeah, I remember when I was on fire like that. You need help. I need help. We need to be on fire like that. The Bible nowhere says, you'll be really excited about me for 3 months and then you'll fall into a stupor. It does talk about don't fall asleep. Keep watch and pray. Stay awake. Remember the disciples at the garden? How many times? I think it was 3 times. They're sleeping. He comes up and wakes you up. You can't even stay awake at this important time. So I'm beating you up tonight. Maybe I am. I don't know. But I don't want you to take it for granted. It's just religion then. It's just religion. Erwin Litzer writes in a book in 2004, After You Have Blown It. It's the name of the book. We'll probably order hundreds of those right now. Strictly speaking, of course, not one of us deserves redemption. God owes us nothing. But he nevertheless offers us undeserved grace. Though we deserve damnation, he invites each of us to be redeemed. Isn't that awesome? Should we be excited about that? Should we be appreciative of that? Appreciative enough that we use that as a guide, how we live our lives, how we make choices, what we invest our time and efforts into? I think we should. I think we should. Randy Alcorn in 2003, he wrote in the book, The Grace and the Truth Paradox, he says it more just straight out. The cost of redemption cannot be overstated. The wonders of grace cannot be overemphasized. Christ took the hell he didn't deserve so we could have the heaven we don't deserve. Shabammy. How true is that? How true is that? We don't have to be a prodigal child. We don't have to be that person that's gone out. We're Jewish and now we're feeding hogs, which was a bad, bad deal. We could just be kind of out of line by how we act or don't act. What we talk about or what we don't talk about. How we live our lives each and every day. Proverbs 27:19, you don't need to look it up, Raymond. Proverbs 27:19 says that as in water face reflects face, so man's heart reveals the man. You don't have to talk with someone very long to kind of find out what's important to them, what they really appreciate. We got a hair cutter back there. She sits and cuts hair all day long, and guys sit down and I'm sure they just throw out stuff. They talk about life. I bet you Natalie can tell very quickly what's important to that person's life in just a few minutes by the topics they bring up. Hey, how about them bikes? All that kind of stuff. The Bible says that faith without works is dead. So if we don't appreciate Christ, we're not going to see many works done for Him and in His name. Faith without works is dead. Matthew 7, Jesus is talking to some people, and they said, hey, we prophesied in your name, Lord. We cast out demons in your name, Lord. We've done many wonders in your name, Lord. And He says, go away from me, I never knew you. How is that possible? Did all these things in your name, yet you say you didn't know me? Yes, because they didn't appreciate the King. They appreciated the gifts. They appreciated the religion. They appreciated what was taking place. But they didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Not the kind He wanted, because He said, I don't even know you. He didn't say, I met you a few weeks ago and we're just kind of getting to know each other. You're kind of nice. He says, I didn't even know you. Get away from me. Well, that, my friends, tells me that we need to appreciate from the beginning of our relationship with Him until the end. When He calls us home, or when He comes to get us all. Appreciate that gift more than anything else that you can have. I'm going to go to James 4, 7 through 10 very quickly. And then we're going to do communion. James 4, 7 through 10, I will read it to you. Therefore submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Lament and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. 5 different things about drawing near to Christ in that. The first one is to submit to God. Yield to His authority and His will. Commit your life to Him and His control, and be willing to follow Him. Submit to God. But we struggle with submitting, don't we? What? Give up control? Be the second man? Somebody once asked the musicians, what's the hardest instrument to play? And they said, second fiddle. But there's truth to that. It's kind of interesting. Here I'm the senior shepherd, but when I'm at CF, Pastor Tim is. And I'm an associate, I'm a helper. And I see the difference. And I'm not struggling with it, but I see the difference because someone will be talking to me saying, oh, good pastor's here, I'll go talk to him about this issue. Where you guys might say, can I talk to you about this issue? There's a difference there. It's second fiddle. But it's all right. We're still serving the same God. But can you be second fiddle to God? Can you be second fiddle to Christ? Do you appreciate Him and all He has for you more than the world has to offer us? Which do you appreciate more? You'll know pretty quickly by what you value. Resist the devil is the second thing. Don't allow Satan to entice and tempt you. But a lot of us say, Brian, I can't help it. I can't help it. I try. I can't help it. 1 Corinthians 10, 12. Therefore let him who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. No temptation has overtaken you except such as common to man. Okay, we got to stop for a second there. A lot of us think we're the only ones that have sinned this certain sin. Oh, I'll never be healed of this because I'm the only person in the world that does this. No. I can't tell you specifics from my office. I'll guarantee you have a sin that is it's not new to other people. It's common to man. God knows these sins. They're common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you're able, but with the temptation will also make the way of escape that you may be able to bear it. The way of escape, one way. We've talked about it before. When you're right there going to jump over that sin line, and the Holy Spirit says, don't do it, turn back. You hear it and you either go, or you turn around and go back. But God says, I will never let you be tempted more than you can bear. So can we beat temptation? Yes, we can. Through Christ who strengthens us. The problem is we don't always appreciate Christ enough to allow Him to be that strong in our life. So when we come to a temptation, we don't allow that. We don't listen to that. We don't hear that voice. We just move forward. And we say, you know what? I kind of hear you, but this is something really good. Ooh, la, 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 la. We struggle. But God will never give you a temptation that you can't handle with Him. So when we find ourselves sinning, we've got to say, you know what? I'm choosing to. Because I don't have to deal with that sin. I can have that removed from my life. Christ says so. The third thing, we're almost done. Cleanse your hands, it says. Purify your hearts. Lead a pure life. Get your hands out of sin. Get rid of things that are causing sin. Get rid of things that you start thinking about sinning. Get rid of anything or anybody that's causing you to have sin in your life, to dirty your hands. Cleanse your hands. Try to purify your life with Christ. Seek to experience God's purity. The fourth one, lament and mourn and weep. Oh man, who likes that? Lament and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to gloom. Oh, I thought God was about love and joy and peace. What it's saying is, realize that if we're sinning and not with God, we shouldn't be smiling about it. We shouldn't be enjoying life when we're stepping apart from Christ. He says, lament, mourn, grieve. Grieve that you've been wrong. Grieve that you've been living a wrong life. Grieve that you've been sinning. Grieve that you haven't been putting Him first in your life. Lament and mourn. Focus on that. Come to God with that kind of heart. Say a repentant heart and say, Lord, I need to confess that. I want you to remove that from my life. Express deep, heartfelt sorrow for what you've done. If you appreciate it, you'll sense that. That's how you'll feel when you know that you aren't living the way Christ wants you to. Lastly, humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. Humble, one of the words is insignificant for it. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. Too many times we lift ourselves up. Too many times we exalt ourselves. Whatever we think. It says to humble yourself. Lower yourself and say, God, I'm not saved by my power. I'm not saved by my wishing. I'm not saved because I paid someone $50. I'm saved because you died on that cross for me. And appreciate it. Appreciate it. Because He took the hell that we didn't have to. So we can have the heaven we don't deserve. Man, it makes you want to appreciate it, doesn't it? But as more we're in the Word, we're more in prayer, the more time we spend in Him, the more that we'll appreciate what He's given us. It won't just be an hour long. It won't just be a sermon. It won't just be a couple songs. It'll be a lifestyle change. I have to change my lifestyle. If I quit watching what I eat, I go all the pot. I lose. And it's the same with Christ. If we don't follow Christ, if we don't live a Christian life 24 hours a day, we'll start to lose. That's the message. Now, we're going to do communion tonight. I think I'll have Francie, if you'll come up and play something while we distribute it. What's going to happen is we'd like you to come up, pick up your elements, sit back down, don't take them. We have a song that Raymond is going to put up for us called I Am Redeemed. This has been pounding in my head for 3 or 4 days about how great a gift it was that we're redeemed. That our sins are paid for. Our debt is covered by Jesus Christ. And so when I had this sermon about appreciating Him, appreciating all that He has for us, and we're going to take communion, let's appreciate what that means. Appreciate coming together that His blood and His body were put on that cross to forgive us of our sins. We're redeemed. We're redeemed. We don't deserve to be, but He did it because He loves us enough. Redeemed. Redeemed. So we're going to take the elements and then we'll play that song. I want you to listen to it. Once it's done, we'll do the elements very quickly and we'll be done. Aren't ready to do that, you don't have to do this tonight. You need to talk to God about some things first and cleanse yourself. Do so before you come out.